Agni parthene despina, acrante Theotokes.
Astăzi vă invităm să descoperim un loc încărcat de spiritualitate și istorie, Mănăstirea Schimbarea la Față din Varypetro, situată la 10 km de orașul Chania, în insula Creta. Ridicată pe locul unui fost metoc al Mănăstirii Izvorul Tămăduirii, această sihăstrie reprezintă un simbol al renașterii spirituale și al tradiției ortodoxe. Piatra de temelie a vetrei monahale a fost așezată în anul 2002 de Patriarhul Ecumenic Bartolomeu, iar sfințirea a avut loc 10 ani mai târziu.
So the building of this began about a little over 30 years ago. There was literally nothing here other than a lot of rock. And what makes this monastery and this church unique, perhaps in the entire world, is that it is built completely from the stone of the excavation. The church that we're standing in was consecrated by the Ecumenical Patriarch Bartolomeu in 2012, dedicated to the transfiguration of Christ, metamorphosis, which was also inspired by Saint Porphyrios. And all of the artistic work that you can see outside of the church and that you can see inside the church, for example, all of the fresco painting, all of the icon paintings, all of the mosaics, the bishop's throne, all of the carving of the stone that you can see on the column heads, the windows, and all of the pebble paving of the courtyard outside is the work of the sisters. And as the patriarch described this church when he came to consecrate it, he said in his own words that we can all feel the grace of God in this church because it is a labor of love. Because we did not employ other people to make things for us, but everybody worked together to create this temple and this altar for the worship and glorification of the Most Holy Trinity.
Un loc deosebit de important pentru comunitatea religioasă din zonă este legătura cu Sfântul Cuvios Porfirie Cavso-Calivitul. Născut în 1906 în insula Evia, Sfântul Porfirie a trăit o viață plină de credință și smerenie, intrând în monahism la doar 14 ani în muntele Athos. De-a lungul vieții sale a fost binecuvântat cu darul înainte vederii și al vindecării, fiind căutat de mii de oameni pentru sfaturi și rugăciuni. Multe dintre minunile sale au rămas consemnate în amintirea credincioșilor, vindecări miraculoase, ajutor în momente de cumpănă și chiar profeții ce s-au împlinit cu exactitate. Sfântul Porfirie obișnuia să spună că iubirea față de Dumnezeu și de aproapele este cheia unei vieți duhovnicești autentice. A fost canonizat de Biserica Ortodoxă în anul 2013, cu zi de sărbătoare în 2 decembrie.
Right at the beginning of Chrysopigi's life as a women's monastery, so about 2 or 3 years after the first sisters had moved there, they were visited by a very, very holy person. And that holy person was Saint Porphyrios. Saint Porphyrios, having many gifts from God, had said to the first abbess and to the current one that Chrysopigi, where they were at, is too small and you will have to go and build on the mountain where the caves are. So the first sisters had very little idea about this. They couldn't understand him because Chrysopigi is very big. But as the years passed, the sisters discovered a dependency of Chrysopigi. A dependency means metochi, which is a small monastery built by the original big one, okay? They discovered Saint Kyriaki, Agia Kyriaki, which is the little monastery at the bottom of the gorge here. So when they discovered Agia Kyriaki, which was in almost complete ruins, they also discovered that surrounding Saint Kyriaki are many, many caves. And in 2 of these caves, there are chapels which date back to the middle of the 17th century. All of this Saint Porphyrios could see from Athens as if he was watching television, okay? And he insisted to the sisters that they come and build here. So eventually Saint Kyriaki was fully restored walking paths were created which lead to most of these caves, okay? And a lot of these caves were also transformed by the sisters into chapels. So now there are at least 8 cave chapels where, with the grace of God, we have divine liturgies there many times during the year.
Prima biserică a mănăstirii a fost așezată sub ocrotirea acoperământului Maicii Domnului.
Because we were starting to build here, the abbot said, let's take the relic of the belt of the Mother of God up here so she can bless this. And that's what happened. And Hieronymus said, of course, since the Mother of God came to us, we will dedicate the first church to her. And so this church is dedicated to the holy belt of the Mother of God. The icon screen is a combination of old icon screens which the sisters found, like they're over 100 years old. The sisters found them abandoned in various churches. And we asked those churches, do you want this? And they said, no, we don't want it. And we said, okay, can we take it? And they said, yes. So the sisters took it, they restored it, and they created an icon screen from various old icon screens. So that's why it's not the same, you can see. Okay. These are the first mosaics that the sisters did. And the icon paintings, of course. So when this was being built, Hieronymus said that we should stop the sanctuary here, the altar, and put an in-ground baptismal font for adult women originally. We all thought, which adults will be baptized in Greece? Okay. But of course, Hieronymus was right and we were wrong. And we have, on average, about 5 baptisms a year from all over the world. They literally come to the door.
În incinta mănăstirii există și o capelă închinată Sfântului Grigorie al V-lea, Patriarhul Constantinopolului, unde pelerinii vin să se roage și să ceară mijlocire. Existența acestei capele adaugă o notă aparte de spiritualitate locului, atrăgând vizitatori care caută liniștea și binecuvântarea duhovnicească.
This is the chapel of Saint Gregory V, Patriarch of Constantinople, who was martyred on the day of Easter, Pascha, April the 10th, 1821. And he was martyred because that's when the Greek Revolution broke out in the Peloponnese. And as an act of revenge, the Ottomans captured the Patriarch while he was serving the liturgy of Pascha. And they tortured him for 3 days and then eventually hung him on the door of the Patriarchate. If you have been to Constantinople, to the Patriarchate, you will know that the main doors of the Patriarchate are sealed. They have been sealed since then in honor of the Patriarch who was martyred there. His body was then taken down after 3 days and thrown into the Bosporus, into the sea, where it was miraculously collected by a Greek fisherman outside of Odysseus. Odysseus was a Greek city then, okay? And he collected the body of the Patriarch. He was buried in Odysseus. And then when the Greeks were ousted from Odysseus, the Greeks, whenever they were ousted from a place, they never took their personal belongings. The only things that they took were their icons and the relics of the saints. And they took the relics of Saint Gregory V, and his relics are now placed in the Cathedral of Athens. If you have been, Evangelismos. So
the central of Athens.
As you enter the Cathedral of Athens, on the right is the reliquary of Saint Gregory V, Patriarch of Constantinople. Why did we dedicate this chapel to him? Because we have a document signed and sealed by the Patriarch Gregory V himself, approximately 1819, protecting the rights of Chrysopiae. Because Chrysopiae has always been a patriarchal monastery, we have always been directly under the Ecumenical Patriarchate since 1580. And because we have this treasure in the monastery, we dedicated this chapel to this remarkable saint and this remarkable martyr. And in this chapel, we usually have short services. Sisters come here for private prayer or to speak with Iorondița. It is a favorite place of the sisters.
Chiar dacă este o construcție nouă, așezământul monahal situat în apropierea orașului Chania amintește de vechile sihăstrii care oferă un loc de liniște și rugăciune celor care îi trec pragul. Mănăstirea Schimbarea la Față din insula Creta este un simbol al credinței și al renașterii spirituale în acest colț de lume, un loc unde liniștea și rugăciunea se întâlnesc într-o armonie perfectă, oferind vizitatorilor o experiență unică de introspecție și pace sufletească. Dacă ajungeți în Creta, nu ratați ocazia de a descoperi acest lăcaș de cult unde tradiția și spiritualitatea continuă să dăinuie.